Every price on this list is straight off Yamaha's 2026 order sheet, and one of these bikes went from a plain, honest middleweight to something that borrows its brain from the R1. 6 of them, you can guess. The 7th is the one dealers keep selling before it hits the floor, and that is the one sitting at number 1. Number 7. Yamaha V Star 250. $4,799. That is the cheapest way to put a real V-twin cruiser in your garage right now. And Yamaha has been quietly selling this bike almost unchanged for years because it works. 249 cubic centimeters, air-cooled 60-degree V-twin, 5-speed. About 21 horsepower. Nobody is winning a stoplight drag race here, and that is not the job. The job is a bike that weighs around 325 pounds wet with a 27-inch seat height, which means almost any adult can flat-foot it at a stop and back it out of a parking space without a second thought. That single number, 27 inches, is why this bike sells. Real world, it will hold 65 to 70 miles per hour on a 2-lane road all day, and it returns close to 75 miles per gallon. That is roughly 180 miles on a 2.5-gallon tank of regular. Now the honest part, this engine is still carburated, no fuel injection, no ABS, and a drum brake out back. On a cold morning, you will be using the choke like it is 1990. And if you want to ride the interstate regularly, look elsewhere because sustained 75 gets buzzy and tiring. Against a Honda Rebel 300 at around $4,900, the Honda gives you fuel injection, available ABS, and more mid-range punch. The Yamaha gives you a genuine V-twin pulse, a lower seat, and a look that reads full-size cruiser instead of learner bike. My honest opinion, for a new rider who wants a cruiser and not a standard, this is still the friendliest motorcycle sold in America. It made the list because it is the lowest price of entry into Yamaha's 2026 lineup, and it asks almost nothing of you in return. If you ride, you already know the next one. You just might not know why it is still here. Number 6. Yamaha MT-07. Here's a problem almost every rider hits around year 2. The little bike is boring now. The big bike is too much money and too much bike. That gap is exactly where the MT-07 lives, and it has owned that gap for a decade, $8,599, 689 cubic centimeters, cross-plane parallel twin, about 72 horsepower. The number itself is unremarkable. What is not unremarkable is where the torque lives. That 270-degree crank gives you a shove from 3,000 revolutions per minute that feels like a much bigger motor, and it means you almost never need to downshift for a highway pass. Roll on, it goes. That is the whole personality of this bike. Owners will tell you the same thing on every forum thread you open. The motor is close to unbreakable, and it drinks almost nothing. Now the weakness, and it is a real one. The stock suspension is soft, not dangerous, just underdamped, and if you weigh over 200 pounds or you ride hard on bad pavement, the front end dives more than you want. The good news is that a fork cartridge kit and a rear shock turn this thing into a genuinely sharp street bike for under $1,000. The bad news is that you should not have to spend that. Against a Kawasaki Z900 at around $9,500, you give up an inline 4 and a chunk of top end, you gain lighter weight, better fuel economy, and a bike that is more fun below legal speeds. I would take the Yamaha. This one made the list because it is the honest baseline of the entire 2026 lineup. Everything above it has to justify costing more. If this breakdown is useful so far, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you would think. Number 5. Yamaha XSR900. A guy I ride with sold a nearly new Triumph Speed Twin to buy one of these. Everyone told him he was insane. 3 months later, he had not stopped grinning. The XSR900 costs $10,599, and what you are actually paying for is the 890 cubic centimeters CP3 triple, 117 horsepower. 3 cylinders means you get parallel twin torque. down low, an inline force scream up top, and the sound between 6,000 and 9,000 RPM is the single best reason to own this motorcycle. The retro bodywork hides a legitimately modern chassis underneath. 6-axis IMU, cornering traction control, cruise control, up and down quick shifter. That combination barely existed on a retro bike 5 years ago. So what is wrong with it? The riding position. Yamaha pushed the bars forward and set the pegs high to chase that 70s race bike look, and it works visually. But after 90 minutes, your wrists will file a complaint. This is a 2-hour bike, not a 4-hour bike, unless you fit bar risers. Against a Triumph Speed Twin 900 at roughly $10,000, you're paying about the same money for meaningfully more power and far better electronics. The Triumph feels more polished at low speed. The Yamaha is faster and more exciting everywhere else. Honest opinion, the XSR is the most underappreciated bike Yamaha sells in America. It made this list because it proves you do not have to choose between looking classic and riding something genuinely quick. And the bike sitting at number 4 turns that logic completely inside out. Number 4. Yamaha Ténéré 700 World Raid. Picture the last long ride you did where fuel range actually mattered. Not a Sunday loop, a real day, gravel, no cell service, and a gas station you were not certain existed. That is the exact scenario this bike was designed around. $12,999 gets you the World Raid version of the Ténéré 700, and the headline is the twin tank setup. Roughly 6 gallons split across 2 sides. Real world. That is close to 300 miles of range depending on how hard you are on the throttle. It also keeps the weight low and centered instead of stacked high over the front wheel, which you feel the moment you pick the bike up off a hillside. Same 689 ccc. The suspension is where the extra money goes. Fully adjustable KYB 48mm fork, longer travel at both ends, and a rear shock with a remote preload adjuster. The downside is not subtle: seat height and weight. This is a tall, heavy bike, and if you are under 5 feet 8 inches, you will be tiptoeing at every stoplight. Picking it up alone in deep sand is a workout that ends friendships. Against a KTM 890, Adventure R at around $15,000, the Yamaha gives up horsepower and electronic sophistication. It gives up nothing on toughness. The Ténéré has a reputation for going 300,000 miles with a valve check and clean oil. For riders who actually leave pavement, that reputation is worth more than ride modes. It is on this list because nothing else Yamaha builds is this genuinely capable of disappearing for a week. Completely different philosophy for the next one. Where that bike was built to survive, this one was built to attack. Number 3. Yamaha YZF-R9. $12,499. For that money, you get Brembo Stylema calipers, a fully adjustable KYB fork, and the same 890 cubic centimeters CP3 triple that makes the XSR so addictive, wrapped in a proper Supersport chassis. 117 horsepower in a bike that weighs around 430 pounds wet. Here is why that combination matters more than a bigger number would. A liter bike makes power you can only use for about 2 seconds at a time on public roads. The R9 makes power you can actually hold onto through a corner exit without immediately committing a felony. On a track day, it corners like something far more expensive. On a back road, it is the rare sport bike where the front tire, the brakes, and the motor all feel like they were designed by the same team. The catch is comfort. This is a committed riding position with clip-ons below the triple clamp, and it is noticeably harder on your body than an R7. There is no cruise control. 2 hours in the saddle and you will know exactly where your wrists are. Against Aprilia's RS 660. At roughly $11,700, the Yamaha costs a bit more and gives you a third cylinder, better brakes, and stronger dealer support in the United States. The Aprilia handles beautifully, but service is a lottery depending on where you live. My take? The R9 is the best pure track weapon Yamaha has built under $15,000 in a decade, It earns its spot because it slots into a gap the R6 left empty, and it does the job better. But the two bikes ahead of it are the ones people are actually arguing about. Subscribe if you want more honest motorcycle breakdowns like this one. No sponsor talk, no spec sheet reading. Number 2. Yamaha MT-10 SP. Most people get this bike completely wrong. They see $17,499 on a naked bike and assume Yamaha lost the plot. Then they ride one. The MT-10 SP runs a 998 cubic centimeter crossplane 4-lifted from the R1 family, making roughly 165 horsepower. And that engine has a character no inline 4 in this class comes close to matching. It does not scream, it growls. The premium over the standard MT-10 buys you the Öhlins semi-active electronic suspension, and this is where the money actually goes. The damping adjusts in real time, so the same bike that stays flat under hard braking on a canyon road also stops beating you up over expansion joints on the highway. You are not choosing between comfort and control anymore. That is genuinely worth the $2,500 jump over the base model. The flaw is wind. There is no fairing, and at 85 miles per hour, you are a sail. This bike will do everything except long interstate days in comfort, and no amount of electronics fixes that. Fuel economy is also mediocre once you start using the motor, which you will. Compare it to a BMW S1000R at around $14,000 for the base version. The BMW is smoother and cheaper to start. Load it up to match the Öhlins package and the price gap closes fast. Would I buy one with my own money? If I only kept one bike, no. If I kept two, absolutely. It is number 2, because it is the most complete performance bike Yamaha sells, and it loses only to something far cheaper. And here it is, the bike that quietly rewrote what $9,000 is supposed to buy you. Number 1. Yamaha YZF-R7. For 4 years, the R7 was the honest, simple sport bike. Great chassis, sweet motor, almost no electronics. For 2026, Yamaha tore up that formula. $9,399. That is only $400 more than the original launch price back in 2022. And for that money, the R7 now gets ride-by-wire, a 6-axis IMU derived from the R1, cornering ABS, cornering traction control, slide control, wheelie control, launch control, engine brake management, and a 3rd-generation quick shifter that works both up and down. Cruise control is standard. So is a 5-inch color TFT dash with navigation. Read that list again and remember the price. The 689cc CP2 still makes about 74 horsepower at 8,750 RPM and 50 pound-feet of torque, which is unchanged, and that is the point. Nobody buying this bike wanted more power. What they wanted was a chassis and electronics that let them use what is already there. The frame and swing arm were stiffened, the fork rods are lighter, and the new spin forged wheels cut unsprung weight where it actually changes how the bike turns. Bridgestone S23 tires as standard fitment is not a small detail either. The flaw? The engine is still the mild one in this class. On a track, a Ducati Panigale V2 or an Aprilia RS 660 will walk away from you on the straight, and both cost thousands more. The R7's answer is that you will be quicker through the corners and you will still have money left. This is the one bike on this list I would buy with my own money without thinking twice. It is number 1 because no other manufacturer is putting superbike electronics under $10,000 right now. So the verdict. Yamaha's 2026 lineup is not about more power. It is about putting real technology at prices that make sense, and the R7 is the clearest proof of that. If I had to spend my own money today, it would be the R7, and it would not be close. Which one would you actually park in your garage? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe if you want the Honda lineup next.